First item on the agenda is the investigation of a citizen complaint received by the License Commission Office related to a license issued to Capsco Inc. As that relates to the second item on the agenda, we will also call for the application of Capsco Inc. doing business as Cellar Wine and Spirits, Marilyn Carter, manager, holder of an all-alcoholic beverages package store license at 991B Mass Ave, has applied for a transfer of stock and change of corporate officer director. The License Commission received an anonymous 7-count complaint regarding the licenses held by Steve Capsalis. The License Commission will be investigating numbers 2 through 7 of the allegations raised. They are as follows. Mass General Law, Chapter 138, Section 17 violation, ownership interest by the same individual of a Section 12 restaurant, Section 15 package store liquor licenses. Falsification of application for Section 15 package store license. Granted beneficial interest in liquor license to numerous restaurant tenants without License Commission approval while operating a separately owned cash-only bar and basement. Renewal of licenses without disclosure of criminal convictions, without disclosure of beneficial interest transfer to restaurant tenants, and without disclosure of alteration of premises. Closing and renovation of restaurant without permits, inspections, or License Commission approval. And open new restaurant without permits, inspections, or licenses. At this time, the complainant wishes to remain anonymous, and staff recommends that the License Commission honor that request with the understanding that it may not be possible if it impedes the investigation.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Walter Sullivan on behalf of Steve
Wait a second.
Salas.
Wait a minute.
Sorry.
I can't see you, I have to see. Let me take off my coat. It's hot.
So good evening, Madam Chair. For the record, my name is James Rafferty. I'm an attorney with the offices of Adams Rafferty, located at 675 Massachusetts Avenue in Cambridge. I represent the licensee, Capsco Inc.
Thank you.
Seated to my right is the proposed transfer shareholder, Marilyn Carter. She's also happens to be the manager of record of the license. And on behalf of the corporation, I have filed a transfer of the application to approve the transfer of the shares of Capsco Inc. to Ms. Carter. I have represented Capsco Inc. since it was formed in 2005. I represented Capsco Inc. in 2005, an application before this commission when Capsco Inc. applied to transfer the license from the University Wine Shop at that location. I have been representing Capsco Inc. Since that time. I personally prepared the application in 2005 that was acted upon by the License Commission and the ABCC. Seated to my right, to Ms. Carter's right, is Stephen Capsalis. Mr. Capsalis was then and currently is the 100% shareholder of Capsco Inc. and the relevant officers and directors. His counsel is Walter Sullivan Jr. and he's seated to Mr. Capsalis' right.
So as Executive Director Lind mentioned, the License Commission has received an anonymous complaint. The staff of the License Commission will be assigned the task of investigating the allegations of the commissioners concur. As these allegations have proven true, could impact the licenses held by Mr. Capsalis, I'm of the opinion that we shouldn't necessarily act on the application for a transfer of stock and change of corporate vote tonight, and we end up continuing this matter until the investigation is complete. So with that in mind, I'd like to ask you, Mr. Rafferty, as counsel for Mr. Capsalis.
Excuse me, counsel for Capsco Inc.
Capsco Inc. I apologize. Thank you. So perhaps I may ask both counsels and let you figure out which piece either one should be submitting. To provide in writing addressed to the board via Executive Director Lind a written response to the allegations, which would be included as part of the investigation, and I can make that in the form of a motion at appropriate time. And if you're one of counsel, I can give you an opportunity to respond.
Right. I'd just like to make it clear that first, my client, Capsco Capsco Inc. learned of this was when a correspondence was delivered to the premises on Thursday of last week. They informed me on Friday of last week, on April 24th, I sent a letter to Ms. Lint at the License Commission indicating that the Capsco had received the notice, but that it did not mention any specifics about the complaint was, nor did it include a copy of this complaint. It was only after that that I received a single sheet of paper which has 7 items on it. And I'm not sure, I'm presuming that in the subject of this investigation, I would begin with by saying that the fundamental element of due process is the right to confront and cross-examine one's accusers. And if this is an anonymous complaint and there is other information behind this, I would hope that that information will be shared with the licensee. I'm not sure what the relevance of much of these items has to do with the transfer of the ownership. I should place on the record and recall for the Commission that we are here pursuant to a correspondence sent February 13th of this year by Ms. Lint to the ABCC, to Mr. Sacramone, where she informed Mr. Sacramone that they were aware that there was a license in Cambridge, and a Section 12 license and a Section 15 license were held by the same individual. They are not held by the same individual. They are held by 2 separate corporations, as the Commission knows. The Capsco Inc. has the Section 15 package store license. JCSK Inc. is the holder of the Section 12 pouring license. Nonetheless, there was correspondence then sent from the ABCC to this Commission, which was forwarded to Capsco Inc., indicating that the ABC directed that the licensees divest themselves of one of the 2 licenses. And a date was provided by which that had to be done. And in response to that, the application that's before the Commission tonight was prepared and filed by me, which is a transfer for consideration of all of the shares in Capsco Inc. to Ms. Cowan. And I think that's the issue before the Commission, and it's unclear to me, having reviewed briefly the 7 items in this, what the relevance of any of this has to do with the transfer of the shares of this corporation to Ms. Carter.
Do you want a response? I didn't know if council wanted to add anything first, or?
Follow up on Mr. Rafferty. As he said, we received a letter on February 13th from the Commission telling us that we had a violation of Section 17 and that we needed to divest in one of the licenses, and they also received a letter from the ABCC advising the same. We responded, so if you're looking for a response to question 2, we responded on March 16th to the alleged violation, saying while we disagree that there's a violation since it's a corporation and a corporation, not an individual, the statute does not say direct or indirect interest. It only talks about a corporation, an individual, and so forth. We don't feel there's a violation of the statute. With that being said, as the letter in March 16 said, that we'll follow the request of the Commission and the ABCC and move forward with the divestiture of Mr. Capsalis' interest in one of the licenses. And as Mr. Rafferty stated, we're moving forward to divest our interest in Capstone.
Thank you. So I've heard you both mention that the licenses are held by 2 different corporations, and who are the officers of each of the corporations?
Mr. Capsalis.
For both?
Yes.
So two different corporate entities, but essentially owned by the same person, is that correct?
No, that's not correct. The information regarding both corporations remains unchanged since the filing of the application before this commission in 2005. The shareholder interest in Capsco Inc. is 100% owned by Stephen Capsalis. Nothing has changed since 2005 when this commission approved that. The ABCC similarly approved it. It was also disclosed at that time in that application that Mr. Capsalis also had an interest in the Section 12 license. None of the corporate structure of the Section 12 license has changed since 2005 when this commission and the ABCC approved the transfer of the Section 15 license to Capsco.
Any questions? So I'm still of the opinion, and again, this is my own personal opinion, that
Could you speak up
I'm
a
sorry.
little bit?
I'm of my personal opinion that the board should do its due diligence in investigating the allegations and hold off on making a decision on the transfer application. I will put that in the form of a motion shortly, but I wanted to know, are there any members of the public that wish to be heard in this matter? Seeing none. Does council have anything else they'd like to add?
I'm just speaking for myself, Madam Chair, and I haven't talked to the client's office, but my client, Mr. Rafferty. But as you know, the statute requires you to act within 30 days of filing the application. If you failure to act, we can move forward to the ABCC and ask them to approve the license transfer, of the stock transfer, excuse me. So I think, with some reasonable hesitation of how long this is going to take, I think Mr. Capsalis has been very forthcoming. Clearly, Mr. Rafferty has been very forthcoming. Ms. Lent did an incredible job in the letter she sent to Mr. Sacramone at the ABCC outlining the history of the license. And I think it's pretty clear what the ABCC said back. Divest the interest in the license. That's what we're here for tonight to do, is to divest that interest and put someone new into operating. The
And
question before the commission is the qualifications of the applicant that's now before you.
And I understand that. I do think though, and I know it was at our direction in terms of saying you need to go ahead and submit this transfer application, but at the same time, I think we are obligated in terms of due diligence to at least investigate the allegations raised before acting on the transfer application. And I think that that's something that can be done quickly. I don't expect it to linger on more than 30 days, but I would like to at least address it, do the due diligence behind it. If there are any issues, obviously have you come back at the next hearing, and at the same time, be able to submit whatever it is you'd like to submit in writing to address these allegations.
I'll let Mr. Rafferty speak for the corporation.
Well, I respect and understand the thoroughness of the board's investigatory role here, and don't take issue with that. I just want to state that in its current form, it would be difficult to have full participation, but I would hope that if an investigation were to go forward, that the applicant would, or the corporation, particularly Capsco, would be allowed the opportunity to examine whatever material is behind this, and also the source of some of this. It's a fundamental question as to whether applications or criticisms and complaints are made in good faith, if there's a bias or a motive. There are many factual issues here that can be easily addressed, so I would agree. It doesn't strike me as though it would take a very long time. I notice here there's references to the section, the application for the Section 15 package for the license. We'd be happy to address, and we stand by every response in that application. I have reviewed it. As you know, it's been the subject of speculation Commission beyond the walls of this room. It's got a much wider audience, and we're prepared to address it. I would hope that we'd be given that opportunity if the Commission were to seek a interim period response. But we noted we are here in response to the directive that Mr. Sullivan noted and set forth in his correspondence of March 16th to the Commission. We think there is an unresolved legal question involved here, and I appreciate the opportunity to slightly place this in context. It should be noted that the provision in particular that has prompted this application, Section 17, states that that not within any city or town can a licensee hold both a Section 12 and a Section 15 license. It should be noted that limitation is only to cities and towns. So there's nothing inherently wrong with one having both licenses. And if this license were located in Porter Square, one could have a package store in Cambridge and a restaurant in Somerville. But I would suggest the policy rationale behind this has much to do with the other restrictions in Section 17. Section 17 of Chapter 138 is the portion of the general laws that limits the number of Section 12 pouring licenses based on the population in a given city or town. It's fair to presume from reading case notes on this that what is intended here is to not have too much exclusivity in any one entity in terms of the service of alcohol. Cambridge, as you well know, is elected through legislation not to be restricted by the provisions of Section 17. The Section 12 licenses in Cambridge are not limited by population. So Cambridge is different than other municipalities covered by Section 17. Cambridge is exempted itself from the restrictions on Section 17. It's also worth noting that if one were to look at the 2014 annual report of the ABCC, they have recommended to the legislature that the restriction regarding the ownership of Section 12 and Section 15 licenses in any one city or town be abolished. I have read with great interest, great hue and cry over some violation here involving a Section 12 and Section 15 license to suggest that there's something that the public interest or the well-being of the operation of licenses in Cambridge are in jeopardy. I would suggest that the exemptions Cambridge has created under 17 make that restriction not applicable in Cambridge. And more importantly, the policy direction from the ABCC to the legislature is that this section is one which should be removed. So it's in that context that I express reservations, but defer it to the judgment of the Commission with regard to the amount of time you think is necessary to act upon this transfer.
Based on what I've heard this evening, I'd like to make a motion that we consider this to be the opening of the hearing on and continue the application of Capsco Inc. doing business as Cellar Wine and Spirits for the transfer of stock and change of corporate officer and director until the investigation of the allegations as read into the record has concluded. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. And I guess to be more formal as well, I'd also like to make a motion that counsel for Mr. Capsalis and Capsco Inc. provide in writing addressed to the board via the executive director a written response to the allegations, which will be included as part of the investigation. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Mr. Point of clarification, when you say the
Yes.
allegations, you're referring to a single sheet of paper numbered 1 through 7, unsigned, no letterhead, that was provided on Friday to Capsco?
That's correct, and we will not be addressing item number 1. So it's just as Executive Director Lynn read into the record, was items 2 through 7.
And Madam Chair, just looking at 6 and 7, it appears to me the very nature of that would be the licensing commission talking to the building commission about this. don't know how we
I'm
can
sorry, I
resolve.
didn't hear you, Counsel.
It appears looking at 6 and 7, that you're asking the licensing commission, the investigatory portion of the license commission to do an investigation for us to respond. It appears that 6 and 7 is as simple as calling the building department to see if anything was needed to be done and if a permit was required, or what happened. It
That's
seems like-
correct, Counsel.
Sorry?
That's correct, Counsel.
So, I mean,
And
that
it
seems
is-
like making a phone.
It's
phone
something
call
that the
tomorrow.
staff can certainly handle. I'm just giving you the opportunity to respond to it, that's all. So you can choose not to, that's fine, but staff will
But I
definitely
just
look
hope
into
that
it.
you're not just looking for our response.
Yeah.
And then you're gonna follow up with the
Absolutely.
fact that these allegations anonymously made are put out there challenging the integrity of my client and of a corporation. And that
Absolutely.
we're moving forward on a hearing based on those allegations without an investigation being conducted. Is that correct?
We're not moving forward on, we've continued it.
Just,
We've continued it until the investigation is concluded. I don't expect that the investigation will take a long period of time, but again, in a matter of doing due diligence, I just want to make sure that we conduct the investigation. So we're all set.
Understood. Thank you.
Thank
wait a
you.
minute, but we gotta do the application.
No, we just made a motion and it was seconded to continue it.
I thought so, hold the hearing, and then continue as to whether to make a decision on the application.
Pardon me.
I
Counselor,
thought
can
we
you
were
say,
doing the application hearing today.
Counselor, can you say that again? We were talking.
Madam Chair, I thought we were doing the application, but continuing the decision of that application until pending the investigation.
So you want to be heard on the application, is that what you're saying?
That's what I thought I understood what was happening. Did I misunderstand that, Mr. Rafford?
Well, no, I heard the vote, and the vote was that the hearing's been opened, and my understanding is that the merits of the application with regard to the stock transfer are going to be deferred until the commission completes its investigation.
That's correct.
And as much as I disagree with that, I respect that, and understand the vote of the commission, so I think that's where we find ourselves.
That's correct.